What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, I'm going to be continuing working on the kill mode S4, and specifically I'll be covering the installation of the plug wires as well as the coils. Now if you're coming from the LS community, you're probably familiar with what these coils are. If you're not, they are truck coils, or specifically I guess the heat sink coils. Price wise, they are about $100 or less. And that's just the average price. I found them as low as 60 to 80. Just depends on who's selling or how many they're selling and whatnot. Now the advantage of going to this coil, aside from the heatsink itself, is everywhere I look, they say that these coils actually perform a lot better compared to LS1. Some have actually done a back-to-back comparison where they get, I believe it was like 9 or 8 HP out of them. Personally, I've never done a back-to-back comparison, but I did use them on my last 600 wheel HP build, and they held up really nice. No spark breakups or anything like that. Alright, so normally coils in the LS sits up front, or on top I should say, like so. But what I'm going to try to do is actually mount them on the bottom, and that really depends on how far I can reach with that. Stickers! Now I've had pretty good luck with the MSD brand, and I went with a 45 just to get a little bit more clearance with the exhaust manifold. I'm also choosing to go with a gray and black just because I want a little bit more of a hidden look. Now I've gone ahead and put them all on. Now check out the clearance with these. So exactly why I wanted to go with a 45. Basically have a clearance on the headers that gives me a lot of room, and as well as, you know, less chance of it melting away. It's a good amount of space. That's the driver's side, and on the passenger side, the same amount of clearance. It's really good. You could actually have a lot of gap between the two, so it's awesome. I guess I should show you how much more clearance you'll get with a 45. So this is the factory truck one. So you can see it's hitting right there. Alright, so with the factory one, it actually hits the flange, but when I take that out, it's a big comparison right there. Look at all that space. Alright, what I'm doing right now is I'm going to label each of the coil, just because I don't want to have it misplaced after I plug it in. I believe the left side is 2468, and then that side will be the 1357. Okay, it's going to be my passenger harness. I'm going to save that for later. I ended up removing the turbo again, just because I can't access this with it there, and I can't really make anything when it's all over there. So going to go ahead and put all this stuff in. Now here's the fun part with doing something custom, and I'm gonna go ahead and think out loud, and I know I shouldn't, but you know, hopefully you guys can get something out of it. So here's my thought process. This one is probably gonna end up going something like this right here, out of the way, right? Get it as close to the body as possible, but also away from the starter. So that's gonna go like that, and the coils is gonna be placed, or at least heading this way, right under this little piece right here. It's gonna go something like that. That's one. These two I could turn it upside down if I want, but I think that might be a problem. So maybe, you know, with that one out of the way, something like this. Turn this a little bit out. So I think the coil is too short. That's my problem right now. Should order something a little bit longer. Just gonna temporarily put these two together. You know what, maybe we could do the same thing on this side too. Right, facing each other like this. Yep, that could work. Alright, so I've got all the pieces right here separated. The coils need to be mounted something like this, as close to it, you know, each other as possible. Now, I'm kind of lucky because it's offset a little bit. You know, if it was the other way around, the plug will be kind of hitting each other. But because the way it kind of worked out, it's going to be offset, which means I can get it as, you know, not like that close, but maybe like that, right? Gonna be using the stock mount here, or at least a modified version of it. What I'm kind of thinking is using this particular spot right here, so it'll be mounted like that. Then I'm gonna be cutting this and welding it this way, so it'll be held by that, right? And then on the other side, I'll do the same thing. I'll cut this off for this side and then kind of moving this one back. What I'm gonna do right now is pull this apart. I'm gonna keep that in here, but I need to be able to see how close or how far things needs to be. I'm gonna go ahead and plug that in. Alright, right there. So here we have the bracket that I put together. So you guys can see, both of them are now in close proximity. What I'm kind of thinking is basically going to be like this, right? And seems to be like a good spot for it. But before I do that, actually I should leave it there. What I need to do is actually put the headers back on, or the exhaust manifold back on. I need to put that back on because I want to see how much clearance I have. I also actually want to test out this one. So I want to be able to check our oil level. Alright, so this is good because now I know I can actually use the stock oil dipstick from a GTO. Clears the headers or exhaust manifold, and of course clears the spark plug wires. Now with this thing in here in place, I do want to see where exactly it needs to fit. Alright, for the next piece, gonna be using another scrap metal. I think this was like a bumper from, let me see, probably from the Silverado I partied out one time to get the engine from. So I always keep like this little pieces like these, because I always feel like I'm gonna need a bracket of some sort, like in a future project. And this is like the perfect example for that. I know I could buy steel and just bend it myself, but that's, yeah, I don't know. So what I'm going to use is whatever this piece from. I'm pretty sure it's from the bumper. And yeah. Alright, so here's the two-piece design that I decided to go with. Now I went two-piece because it's a lot easier to work with, at least when you're mounting it, right? Right now, I could do it one time really easily with a one-piece, but once I remove it a couple times, I'm probably going to want it to be a two-piece like I did here. Now by design, what I want to be able to do is put this on the engine side, tie in the bolt that's going to hold this thing in place. With this thing mounted on the engine bay and the coil pack mounted in this bracket, all I need to do is basically put that in like that, tighten two bolts, and it's all set. Alright, so here's the coils. Alright, so that's fully tightened. barely any flex on there. You'd have to be really yanking on there to really move. So it's a pretty solid mount. It's not meant to come off at all or shake around. I'm still not sure how I'm going to go ahead and mount this because I don't have the rest of the wiring. But what I'm kind of thinking is going to be mounted on the back. So this thing right here will be somewhere on the bottom, tucked out of the way. The last part is just putting the plug wires back on. Alright, so let's talk clearance. There's plenty of clearance on the alternator so it doesn't hit anything. Wires are all separated. The back one's also separated. Nothing touching on the sides or anything. There's plenty of clearance on the starter there. And it's a little hard to see, but I could put my whole hands in there. So nothing touching, which is what I want. So that's a good thing. What I'm kind of thinking though is I might need to ground this one because I believe these things are grounded. But with this thing being powder coated, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get a solid ground. It should because I'm bolting it from the back, but you know, doesn't hurt to add an extra ground. Alright, so I'm actually pretty happy with how this thing turned out. I did plan to have a lot of space on this side, so I tried to tuck it in to the right side as possible. That's because I'm thinking that I'm going to use this for intercooler piping and miscellaneous stuff, so I wanted to have as much open here as possible. I mean, at the end of the day, if I really need to, I can always go upwards here, but if I can tuck as much stuff as possible under, that would be great. That way, if I do decide to have like a cover or something to clean up the top, I can do that. Alright, so that completes the coil pack relocation. Now, one thing to note on the driver's side, it's a little bit tighter here because of all this stuff that's going on. You got the AC compressor, you got the thermostat housing. So we'll need to put some sort of spark plug wire holder or whatever those things are called, just to keep these two together and away from rubbing on anything else. The back too looks like it's in pretty good shape. There's plenty of clearance everywhere. Now this mount is also pretty solid. Let me show you guys how solid it is. The whole car actually ends up shaking. So it's on there pretty good. Alright, so with the coil pack in place, we are done with that. So I'm not really sure what's next.